At the welcome banquet for my wife's return, her friend Sun Xiang suddenly smiled and asked her in English, "You're willing to come back after only 3 months, Liu Ru?" Yan's lips curled up as she intimately hooked her arm around mine while I was peeling an apple for her, responding in English as well. "I can't help it, I haven't accompanied Yi Tian for a year and I'm afraid he'll be angry." Sun Xiang glanced at me with a smile and then asked, "How long do you plan to stay this time?" Liu Ruyan turned her head, gazed affectionately at my face and said, "I'm not leaving, I can't bear to leave Yi Tian." A smile tugged at the corner of my mouth as I thought, "My wife is so good, I must make it up to her tonight." At that moment Sun Xiang suddenly said, "The baby is only 3 months old, are you willing?" Liu Ruyan sighed softly. "I brought him back and let Li Zefeng take care of him for now. I plan to keep the child by my side through adoption later so Yi Tian won't suspect that he's my biological child. This way I can maintain his dignity and fulfill his dream of being a father." I was stunned. Her going abroad wasn't to expand business but to give birth. Moreover, the child was born to her and another man. She cheated. She seemed to have forgotten that I understand English. She had only studied it hard to pursue me. But I am the real English expert. Before going abroad, she said the overseas branch had just started and she wanted to personally oversee it. She said she would return after it stabilized in a year. At that time I wanted to go with her, but I had once injured my health to save her and was still recovering. It was a critical period, and since the person accompanying her was Li Zefeng, a poor student I had sponsored, I felt at ease letting her go. I thought that in a year's time my body should be recovered and I would give her a surprise when she returned. Although she had promised that she was willing to give up motherhood as long as I was safe. How could I have the heart to deprive her of the happiness of being a mother? Besides, I also longed for a child of our own. So I kept it from her and sought medical advice everywhere while also preparing for the worst. If my body still didn't recover, I would choose to divorce her so she could be a normal woman. Fortunately, I met an old Chinese medicine doctor who told me my illness could be cured, but that during the recovery period I should not have too much intercourse, preferably none at all. After 6 months of treatment, the doctor told me I would recover within a year. I went home excited, full of joy to share this good news with her. Coincidentally, she spoke first that day about going abroad. I thought it was fate and decided to tell her the surprise after she returned, but I never imagined that on the first day of her return. Before I could tell her the happy news of my recovery, she gave me a cruel surprise first. Liu Ruyan's hand waved in front of me, pulling my thoughts back to reality. "Hubby, do you have something on your mind?" I didn't answer. Sun Xiang covered her mouth and giggled. "I say, you two are an old couple now. Can you stop showing off your affection in front of me? I'm still single." Liu Ruyan gave her a look and smiled. "Is this the first day you've known me? Yi Tian is my life. If you can't stand it, go find someone quickly." "Fine, fine, I'll shut up, okay." Sun Xiang laughed and shook her head, but that smile felt meaningful in my eyes. The corners of my mouth twitched slightly. The look I gave Liu Ruyan was no longer tender like before, but a bit colder. Liu Ruyan didn't notice my change. She pulled my hand and said softly, "Hubby, how about I take you to the hospital? I noticed your gaze is a bit dull." I took a deep breath to suppress the bitterness in my throat. "No need, I just noticed that you've put on quite a bit of weight, like someone who just finished their postpartum confinement." Liu Ruyan froze. A flash of panic in her eyes, then she straightened her face. "Hubby, that joke isn't funny at all." Seeing that I didn't speak, she affectionately leaned her head against my shoulder. "My shoulder, hubby, it's all my fault for making you feel wronged. But medicine is so advanced now, one day we will have our own child." Lowered my eyes in disappointment, picked up the red wine on the table and drank it all. "Liu Ruyan, there will never be such a day between us again." Liu Ruyan thought she had touched a sore spot and quickly raised 2 fingers to swear. "I, Liu Ruyan, swear again that no matter what happens in this life, I will always stay by Yi Tian side through thick and thin, through sickness and health, and never betray him." I looked up and chuckled, but as I laughed, tears flowed again. I didn't expect her to still remember the oath she made to me the day we made our relationship official. However, on that day, I also said that if you ever break your oath and betray me, I will leave you forever. I still remember her hugging me affectionately then, saying, "Yi Tian, you are my life. I will never do anything to hurt you. If I ever do, let me die alone and miserable." At that time, I firmly believed her oath. Although I am a man, I have a face that stuns women. When I was in university, there were many seniors and juniors who openly confessed their love to me. If I wanted to be a playboy, even girls from wealthy families would have been easy for me to get. But I didn't do that because I grew up in a single-parent family. I don't know how deeply that father I never met hurt my mother. I often saw my mother secretly crying alone late at night. Before she died, she made me swear not to look for my biological father, not to be promiscuous, and not to fail the woman who loves me deeply. I kept my promise to my mother, not seeking my father, not being promiscuous, and not failing the woman who loves me. Because I know how much it hurts to be betrayed. That pain can last a lifetime. Liu Ruyan fell in love with me at first sight and swore to win me over. She wrote me a love letter every 2 days for a year. What touched me most was that she practiced English hard just to have more topics in common with me. When I received her last letter, I was finally moved. I thought her love for me was true, but now that faith in true love has collapsed in my heart. 3 months ago, Li Zefeng posted on his WeChat Moments using a secondary account a picture of a newborn baby. With a caption, "Thank God for giving us a healthy and cute baby. Also, thank you wife for your hard work." At that time I was full of doubts about when he got married and had a child. I planned planned to ask him when he returned. Although I'm not his relative, he is a poor student I sponsored, and since he is Liu Ruyan's assistant, I felt I should show some concern. Now it seems the child is likely his and Liu Ruyan's. I'm afraid I sponsored an ungrateful wolf. After finishing the meal, Liu Ruyan affectionately took my hand. "Hubby, let's go home." I nodded and stood. To walk out, Sun Xiang, following behind, suddenly spoke. "Ruyan, there's another gathering waiting for you. Are you going?" Liu Ruyan leaned her head on my shoulder, waved her hand behind her. "I'm not going. I want to accompany my husband." Sun Xiang chuckled. "They held this gathering specifically for you. Are you sure you're not going?" Liu Ruyan looked up at my face affectionately and said without hesitation, "No." But I saw the insincerity in her eyes. Just then my phone screen lit up with a message from Li Zefeng. "Yi Tian, Ruyan organized a homecoming banquet for my son. You don't mind, do you?" I stared at the screen, stunned. Calling Ruyan so intimately, is he planning to stop pretending, or does he think he can rise in status because of the child? Liu Ruyan saw me stop in my tracks and looked over. I quickly turned off the screen and put away my phone. She asked with a confused look, "Hubby, is something wrong?" I frowned slightly. "Nothing, it's just an ungrateful wolf sent me a message." An ungrateful wolf? She obviously didn't believe it and reached out to take my phone. Just then her phone suddenly rang. I knew it must be Li Zefeng calling. Seeing me staring at her phone, her eyes flickered with panic. She skillfully put the phone away and asked, "Hubby, you haven't been looking for a mistress behind my back while I was away, have you?" "Looking for a mistress? I'm the one who should be asking that. I didn't expose her since she has broken her original oath. I will leave her." I stared at her expressionlessly. "You installed cameras at home, a dashcam in the car, a tracker on my phone, and even my spending sends you notifications. My dear wife, do you think I even have the chance to find a mistress?" Sun Xiang behind her couldn't help but laugh out loud. "I say, Ruyan, why do you keep such a tight leash on your husband?" Her face turned slightly red and she glared at Sun Xiang. She turned back to look at me affectionately. "Hubby, I do this because I love you. Love me. If your way of loving me is sleeping with another man, this kind of love I'd rather not have." I pointed at her phone, which was ringing incessantly. "Answer it, it's been ringing for a long time." She opened her mouth. I knew she wanted to step aside to take it. I tactfully pushed away her hand that was holding my arm. "I'll wait for you in the car." She was surprised, but her face was visibly relieved. "Then you wait for me in the car." I nodded as usual and walked out. After getting in the car, I rolled up the window. Through the glass, I could see her clearly, but she couldn't see me. I saw her looking joyful and smiling happily. Sun Xiang also pressed her ear to the phone, laughing and saying something. I think they must be listening to the babbling voice of her son on the other end. A surge of bitterness flooded my heart and my throat twitched. I bit my finger hard, letting tears flow freely while forcing myself not to make a sound. "This is my trial. I'll be fine once I get through it." Liu Ruyan hung up the phone and, looking radiant, walked towards me. I withdrew my gaze and hurriedly wiped away my tears. Immediately after, Li Zefeng sent another message. "My son is crying because he hasn't seen his mother. I had to ask Ruyan to come over early and help. You don't mind, do you? If you're worried, I can send you the location so you can come too." I clenched my fists tightly, my fingernails sinking deep into my flesh. I let out a low roar of anger. "Li Zefeng, you've gone too far." At that moment, Liu Ruyan opened the car door. I hurriedly turned my head away. "Hubby, who are you talking to?" She turned my head back, seeing my reddened eyes. She froze and asked in a panic, "Hubby, why are your eyes so red?" I took a deep breath and said casually, "Some sand got in them. Let's go home." She looked apologetic and hooked her arms around my neck. "Hubby, I want to go home with you right now, but something came up at the company that needs me to handle it personally." I lowered my eyes in disappointment. I thought she would go home with me. Now it seems her focus is no longer on me. She gave me a soft kiss on my forehead. "Be good, hubby. Go home and wait for me. I'll be back soon." I smiled slightly and nodded. "Okay, go ahead." Only then did she get up, satisfied, and got into Sun Xiang's car, driving away. About 5 minutes later, Li Zefeng sent a location with a message. "Yi Tian, can you come to my son's homecoming banquet?" I laughed angrily, but the smile was full of desolation. I don't know how blind I was to sponsor such an ungrateful wolf. Since you two have a son, it's not right for me to be in the middle. Why not just let you be a family? Instead of going home, I drove to an agency. I happened to hear my mother mention this agency by chance. On the surface, it handled documents, but in reality, it was a company that helped people escape by faking their deaths. Liu Ruyan is worth hundreds of billions. Finding someone is effortless for her. I thought there was no better way than faking my death. Arriving at the agency, I explained my purpose. The boss almost fell out of his chair in shock. "Sir, are you sure you want to do this?" I looked at the wedding ring on my ring finger, my eyes stinging. "I'm sure, I just don't know if you dare to take the job." Saying this, I placed a bank card on the table. This card was originally left to me by my mother for my wedding, but it went unused. When I married Liu Ruyan, she had prepaid for everything except the wedding rings. Stared at the agency boss. "There's 1 million in the card as a deposit." The boss's eyes gleamed as he smilingly took the card. "When business comes to the door, there's no reason not to take it." "Please wait a moment." The boss stood up to print the contract. About 15 minutes later, he sat back down and handed the contract over. "Mr. Yi, take a look. If there's no problem, sign your name." I looked at the contract. It seemed sincere enough, with a 100-fold penalty for breach of contract. I signed my name and looked up to warn him. "I heard your company had a breach of contract 25 years ago." Hearing this, the boss looked a bit sad and lowered his head. "That did happen. It was my father who breached it, and he paid a heavy price." At this point, the boss looked up at me, but my father's final words words were that business must be conducted with integrity. This made me feel very satisfied. He didn't avoid the issue and admitted it honestly. The reason I warned him was to avoid unnecessary complications. To put it bluntly, even if he breached the contract, it wouldn't affect me too much and I could still collect the massive penalty. As long as my goal was achieved, it was fine. It was 11:00 p.m. when I got home, but Liu Ruyan still hadn't returned. In the massive villa, besides the sound of my breathing, only the ticking of the wall clock remained. I looked up at the clock, feeling a bit dazed. On our wedding night, Liu Ruyan had taken the initiative to hang it up. She made a pact with me that no matter what party we attended, we must return home before midnight. In special circumstances, 1:00 a.m. was the absolute limit. Although I had decided to leave her, I still wanted to know if she would still respect that curfew now that she had a biological son. I took out a bottle of 82 red wine and sat at the table, drinking slowly by myself. Soon, the hands of the clock on the wall pointed to 1:00 a.m. She hadn't returned and there wasn't even a single message. I stood up bitterly and walked toward the bedroom. I knew clearly in my heart that since she hadn't returned yet, there was only one possibility. She stayed to accompany Li Zefeng and their son, but thinking about it, it was normal. As the saying goes, children are a parent's weakness. Although Liu Ruyan was the high and mighty chairman and CEO of the Liu Group, she was, after all, a new mother. If Li Zefeng used the excuse that their son wanted his mother's company, she probably couldn't refuse. As for me, I believe she still has me in her heart. It's just that now she has split her heart in half, one half for me and the other half for Li Zefeng and their son. However, I have an emotional obsession and cannot share her with others. I began to organize all the gifts she had given me, categorizing them into what could be sold and what couldn't. To be honest, the gifts she gave me were very expensive, like a Rolex Day-Date and a Rolls-Royce. They were worth a lot of money. I would sell all the valuable items. After all, I hadn't received a single cent of salary during my years working at the Liu Group. Now that I decided to leave, I needed to have money on me. As for the things that couldn't be sold, I would dispose of them all. In short, I wouldn't take a single thing she gave me, but I wouldn't leave them for her either. I packed the valuable items that could be sold into a small box, including the wedding ring on my finger. As for the unsellable items like clothes and photos, I took them all outside and began to burn them. Just as I finished burning the last piece of clothing, Liu Ruyan returned. Her face turned pale instantly and in her hand, the bag she was holding almost dropped to the ground. "Husband, what are you burning?" I glanced back, stood up and said, "I can't sleep, so I'm clearing out some useless garbage." She stepped forward to check and her brow furrowed. "Since when did we have so much garbage?" I didn't answer and with an expressionless face walked inside. She hurried forward and grabbed my hand, smiling. "I'm just asking. Look what I brought you, your favorite roasted pig's trotters." I glanced at my phone, 4 a.m. Buying them in the middle of the night, she must feel guilty. My lip twitched. "I thought you were back." She stood in front of me and asked, "Husband, are you mad at me?" I didn't answer, just looked at her quietly. She explained nervously, "I'm late because I was away for a year and had too many files to handle. I forgot time to come home." She probably didn't even believe herself. I smiled nonchalantly. "I didn't say I don't believe you. Why are you so nervous?" She breathed a sigh of relief and punched my chest. "You scared me to death," I mocked. "You're a billionaire CEO. How could I scare you?" She looked at me affectionately. "You're the husband I worked so hard to get. What do you think?" I sneered and walked past her to the house. "Liu Ruyan, you're tainted. It's over." She was stunned, then playfully hurried forward and hugged my arm. Inside, she noticed shoes were missing from the rack. She frowned. "Husband, I feel like things are missing," I said dismissively. "I donated old clothes and shoes to the mountains." She looked at me doubtfully. "Are you sure you aren't lying?" I asked. "Have I ever lied to you, or do you just not trust me?" She smiled and hugged me after putting the food down. "Of course I trust you. I'm just so in love with you, I'm afraid you'll leave." I looked at her seriously. "Don't worry. As long as you don't betray me, I won't leave you." She avoided my eyes and leaned on my chest. "Husband, you're my life. How could I betray you?" If I hadn't heard her German talk with Sun Xiang, I'd believe her lies. Now it's just noise. I gently pushed her away and took the trotters. "You must be hungry too. It's late. Let's eat together." She smiled and turned. At that moment, I intentionally dropped the trotters. She saw me staring at them and asked nervously if I was okay. I looked up and shook my head. She saw the coldness in my eyes and panicked. "It's okay, husband. If you want them, I'll buy more." I used to be moved by her care. Now I just looked away. "No need. I don't actually like eating roasted pig's trotters." She froze, her voice trembling. "Didn't you used to love them most?" "Yes, in the past. I always used the excuse of liking them to go to the west of the city to buy them for her. Because once she woke up at night and said she really wanted them from that specific shop. Later, she thought they were my favorite, but her buying them for me at night, this was a first. Usually, she would just bring some back if it was on her way. I didn't tell her the truth and sneered. "My tastes have changed." She stared at me. "Is it because I was late? Are you still? Are you mad at me?" I lowered my eyes and smiled. "No, I just don't want you anymore." She clearly didn't believe me. Her sixth sense told her I had become cold toward her. She raised 2 fingers. "I'm serious." The phone she placed on the coffee table suddenly rang. I subconsciously looked at her phone. She frantically grabbed the phone, then directly hung up, forcing a smile. "A harassment call?" I sneered in my heart. "Someone calling you at 4 in the morning? Would a harassment call make you this nervous?" "Liu Ruyan, oh Liu Ruyan, you probably don't even believe this excuse yourself. But none of this matters anymore. As long as the agency is ready, I will leave you. These few days won't make a difference." Seeing my silence, she was about to explain again when her phone rang once more. She Wanted to hang up again, but I held her hand and helped her answer it. At the same time, I saw the caller ID clearly. Her face changed as she looked at me. Hubby. I chuckled. Answer it. Maybe they have something important for you. She frantically muted the phone and said, I knew she wanted to go behind my back to answer the call. What she didn't realize was that before, her phone had no secrets from me. I don't know when it started. She developed this habit. Thinking back now, it's been about 2 years. I was tactful and smiled while walking to the bedroom. However, as I passed her, my smile vanished. I knew she would soon find an excuse to leave. Sure enough, I hadn't been sitting on the bed for even 2 minutes when she walked in with an apologetic face. Hubby, something happened to Sun Xiang at the hospital. I have to go there immediately. I nodded. Go ahead, hubby, you're so good. She stepped forward and kissed my forehead, saying anxiously, get some rest. I might not be back until tomorrow evening. After speaking, she hurriedly turned to leave. I suddenly grabbed her hand. She looked back with panic in her eyes. I pretended not to notice and said, there's a personnel transfer that needs your signature. As I spoke, I took the divorce agreement and pen from the folder on the nightstand and flipped directly to the signature page. She didn't even look closely, signed her name in a few quick strokes and turned to leave. Watching her disappearing back, I sneered in my heart. What a clumsy excuse. She was so nervous she didn't even notice the wedding photo on the bedroom wall was gone, let alone realize she just signed the divorce agreement. You should know, when her father passed away and she faced the board members' harassment, nothing had ever made her this nervous. I think besides her newborn child, no one could make her this flustered. After Liu Ruyan left, I took a short nap. When I woke up, it was already 10 a.m. I checked my phone. No calls from Liu Ruyan and no provocative messages from Li Zefeng. Usually, if Liu Ruyan wasn't with me, I'd call her the moment I woke up. Now I won't disturb their family's dreams. I briefly tidied up and drove to a second-hand car market to sell the Rolls-Royce she gave me. Then I went to a phone shop and bought a new phone. I thought, the day I leave, I'll leave that phone for her. I checked the time and saw it was still early, so I went to the hospital. Although the old doctor said I had fully recovered, I still wanted to confirm it at a formal hospital. At the hospital, the doctor repeatedly examined the report with disbelief in his eyes. Mr. Yi, all indicators show your bodily functions are perfectly normal. This is truly surprising. Hearing this, I breathed a sigh of relief. With a smile, I took the report from him. The doctor looked up at me, hesitating to speak. I knew what he wanted to say. After all, back then, it was he who feared I'd be unable to be a father for life due to azoospermia. Plus, as Liu Ruyan's husband, I left a deep impression on him. Now, my body suddenly recovered, and I think he must be very confused. I didn't enlighten him, got up and left the examination room. I passed by a VIP pediatric clinic room where a very familiar voice came from inside. A Feng, look, don't Xiao Bao's dimples look like they're hiding 2 candies? That's because Xiao Bao takes after his mom. Look, Xiao Bao's smile could brighten all of Kyoto. I stopped and looked inside. The person speaking was none other than Li Zefeng and Liu Ruyan. Li Zefeng had a strap draped over his left arm while his right hand naturally held her slender waist. Liu Ruyan leaned into his arms. Their intimate posture made my eyes turn red. A sour bitterness kept welling up in my throat. I bit my lip hard, but my face still twitched. Took a deep breath and sighed in my heart. Forget it. Since I've decided not to love her anymore, I should just leave with dignity. Just as I was about to look away, Li Zefeng suddenly turned his head. His gaze met mine directly. His pupils constricted sharply and his Adam's apple bobbed. Liu Ruyan noticed something and was about to turn around when Li Zefeng grabbed the back of her head and pressed her towards him. He took her lips, his tongue prying open her teeth, while his gaze, like a poisoned sword, was fixed straight on my tense face. I clenched the report in my pocket, my nails almost digging into my palm. I didn't know why, even though my heart had decided to let go and let them be. My heart still felt very miserable at this moment. I even wanted to rush in and beat Li Zefeng up, then ask Liu Ruyan directly why she treated me like this. But in the end, I held my temper. It wasn't because I was afraid to die, but because I felt she was already dirty and there was no need to waste my thoughts on her. I took a deep breath, slowly withdrew my gaze and walked out. Liu Ruyan, from this moment on, my last bit of attachment to you ends here completely. 9. I hailed a taxi by the roadside. Just as I sat down, a provocative message from Li Zefeng popped up. Yi Tian, since you ran into us today, I'll be blunt. Ruyan loves me. Considering you once sponsored me, I'll leave you some dignity. You should leave on your own. I replied calmly. So you remember I sponsored you? Is this how you treat your benefactor? There was a brief silence on the other end. Then, love is selfish, don't blame. Besides, the money you used to sponsor me was Ruyan's money. You just used her money to build your own reputation. I laughed out of pure anger. He seemed to have forgotten that when his mother was critically ill and needed a large sum of money to save her life, he knelt at the hospital entrance for help, but no one reached out. Was I, a stranger who didn't know him at all, who reached out? At that time, he told me with tears of gratitude, "You are my benefactor. From now on, my life is yours." Later, after learning he was going to drop out due to medical bills, I sponsored him to finish his studies only because we both came from single-parent families. The difference was he was from the mountains while I was from Jiancheng. Every school season, he felt hopeless about the high tuition fees, while I was carefree because my mother left me a deposit of tens of millions. Back then, although I had established a relationship with Liu Ruyan, the money I used to sponsor him was left to me by my mother. Now, according to him, it has become Liu Ruyan's. Didn't argue, treating it as if I'd fed a dog. At least a dog would wag its tail in gratitude. gratitude, but he is an ungrateful wolf. I casually replied, if she really loves you, why are you so eager to show off to me? What are you afraid of? Li Zefeng's message hit back, I knew you wouldn't give up, then I'll make you lose hope completely. Immediately, he sent several videos. I opened them and my face suddenly froze. The phone trembled violently in my palm. In the video, the two were on a bed. Amidst the sounds of passion, Li Zefeng gripped Liu Ruyan's chin and pressured her. Do you love me or Yi Tian? Panting, she replied, of course it's you. Heartache rose in my throat. I bit the tip of my tongue as hard as I could. The entwined figures in the video felt like a sharp blade piercing my heart, making it hard to breathe. The taxi driver, through the rearview mirror, saw my pale face and asked, brother, are you okay? I shook my head, saved the video, and my gaze drifted aimlessly across the bustling crowds outside. For the first time in my life, I felt a bone-deep sense of confusion. Ever since my mother passed away when I was 18, I had regarded Liu Ruyan as my life, because she was not only my wife but also my only relative in this world. But now she has left me with endless desolation. Heavens, why are you so unfair to me, Yi Tian? I wiped away the tears that had fallen unknowingly, a light of hatred appearing in my eyes. Originally, I was just going to have an agency stage a fake car accident, to create an illusion so I could disappear from her world. Now I have changed my mind. I want Liu Ruyan to know that my death was not an accident, but because her affair led to my death. When that time comes, I want to see if you, the ungrateful wolf I sponsored, can still be so triumphant. When I returned home in a daze, Liu Ruyan's exclusive ringtone suddenly rang out. If it were before, I would have answered immediately, but now I just cast a cold glance at the screen and hung up. However, the ringtone persisted stubbornly. A nameless fire rose in my heart. I hung up again, my finger hovering over the block button. After thinking I still didn't block her, it was not that I couldn't bear it, but that the time had not yet come. After I hung up again, she did not call back, but she came home early. Hubby, I'm back. I lowered my head, stirring the tomato and egg noodles in my bowl, giving a faint response. She wrapped her arms around my neck from behind. I'm hungry too. Make me a bowl of noodles, okay? Do it yourself. I swallowed the sour noodle soup and added, I'm not feeling well. Her body stiffened suddenly because I had never rejected her before, even if I was unwell. She flusteredly turned my face around, and when she saw my red eyes, her voice trembled suddenly. Hubby, you cried. I stared at her suddenly, pale face, and smiled. No, I just watched a short drama where the wife cheated and the lover sent a provocative video. Her pupils contracted violently, and the hand resting on my shoulder slid down. Having your heart pierced by the person you trust most makes even death a relief. She shook her head violently, her fingertips clenching. That's fake. Real life doesn't have such plots. It's too ridiculous. I looked into the panic in her eyes, my own eyes growing hot. If one day you, she hurriedly interrupted me. In my heart there is only you, hubby. You have to believe me. I asked with feigned surprise. I'm saying if. Why are you nervous? She looked back flusteredly. There is no if. You are my life. Unless I die, I will never betray you. I let out a laugh. Liu Ruyan, why didn't I realize your acting was so good between me and Li Zefeng? Isn't it tiring to juggle? She gently punched my shoulder. You're so mean, bullying me all day. I didn't want to look at her hypocritical face and lowered my head to eat. She clearly noticed my unusual behavior, her brow furrowing. She sat down beside me, her eyes reddening, and rested her head on my shoulder. Hubby, you promised me that no matter what happens, you will never leave me. I drank the last sip of soup and said seriously, I still stand by those words. As long as you don't cheat, no matter what happens, I will never leave you. Hearing this, she immediately became nervous and raised 3 fingers. Hubby, I swear, but her ringtone interrupted her. I glanced at her panicked face and stood up. She quickly hung up the phone and called after me, Hubby, where are you going? I touched my stomach with a smile. I'm full, just going out for a walk. Then wait for me, I'll change and go with you. As she spoke, she hurriedly walked toward the bedroom, and at the same time her phone rang again. I didn't leave and just waited there. I knew her nature. Given her possessiveness towards me, leaving her is impossible unless I die. Suddenly, a scream came from the bedroom. I instinctively rushed in. She was pointing at the empty wall and trembling. Hubby, where's our wedding photo? I said in a normal tone. I put it away. I'll bring it out on our anniversary. I wanted to give you a surprise. She clearly didn't believe me, stepped forward and grabbed my hand, her nails almost digging into my skin. You're not lying to me. I wiped away her tears, my fingertip brushing the bridge of her nose. Don't you believe me? Or rather, I do believe. Just then, her phone rang again and her face grew tense once more. I pretended not to notice and said, I'll wait for you outside. I knew she was going to find another excuse to leave. She came out in a snow-white casual outfit and spun around, asking, Hubby, do I look good? I nodded calmly, waiting for her to speak. At least you have a bit of a conscience, she said, stepping forward to grab my arm. Let's go to. Not going anywhere, I'll just stay with you. I struggled a bit to free my arm from her grasp but failed, to avoid making her suspicious. I had to let her hold me. After all, I hadn't found the body double agency yet. Refusing her intimacy forcefully would only alert her, and my plan would likely be ruined. However, I didn't expect that Li Zefeng wouldn't call her away this time. I walked around the neighborhood with her for a full lap without hearing her phone ring. I felt a bit restless. No, I had to find a way to make her leave. Just then, a phone suddenly rang. It wasn't hers but mine. I looked at it and was stunned. The call was from Li Zefeng. You're not calling Liu Ruyan. Calling me instead. Is information not enough, so you're starting an open provocation? Liu Ruyan leaned over and I turned the screen toward her. Her face turned slightly pale. After seeing the caller, a hint of panic flashed in her eyes. I thought some beauty was calling you. She laughed awkwardly, but the smile exposed her guilt. I didn't bother to expose her, just answered and pressed the speakerphone. From the corner of my eye, I saw her shoulders tense up instantly. Tianj, is Sister Ruyan with you? Li Zefeng's voice carried a deliberate urgency. I am. Liu Ruyan interrupted. What's the matter, Sister Ruyan? A major incident happened at the company. You must come back immediately or we'll lose hundreds of millions. He looked up at me and I remained expressionless. She suddenly shouted angrily into the phone. Zefeng, didn't I tell you I'm staying with Tianj today? No. No matter what it is, don't disturb me. I know, but this really can't wait. I couldn't bear to listen to their coordinated performance any longer. I raised my hand and gently rubbed her hair, speaking softly. Don't be so harsh with Zefeng. He's an assistant, not a servant. Speak more gently. Her cheeks flushed. Hubby, I hung up the phone and patted her shoulder. Go ahead, hubby, you're so good. She looked up, pecked my lips, her hair brushing my hand as she turned hurriedly. Leaving, the moment she left and I wiped my lips, the smile on my face completely faded. Liu Ruyan, oh Liu Ruyan, did you think this show of affection could wash away your filth? You didn't know he had long ago sent me videos of your vulgar behavior in bed. What's even more ridiculous is that you thought your seamless acting was anything more than a paper stage in the face of greedy desire. How could an ungrateful wolf like Li Zefeng be content to stay hidden in the shadows, forever like a rat? Moreover, you even gave birth to his child, giving him a source of confidence. I wonder how you will react when you discover Li Zefeng's true face. Will you kill Li Zefeng in a rage, or will you accept the mistake and forget about me? Not long after Liu Ruyan left the agency, the company boss called me. I didn't expect the agency to be so efficient, finding a suitable candidate in just a day or two. I rushed to the agency and looked at the body double lying in the coffin. From his build, I even suspected the person was me. I thought, if even I have this illusion, let alone Liu Ruyan, I believe when she sees this double, she will definitely mistake him for me. I looked away satisfied. Then, led by the agency boss, I went to the police station to cancel my current identity and get a new one. Named Yifen, I used this new identity to apply for a US visa. Whether it was a coincidence or not, the staff told me the visa would be ready in 3 days. 3 days later is our wedding anniversary and our dating anniversary. Perhaps fate has its own destiny. Let me disappear from her world on that day. I went to the airport and bought a ticket to America for 3 days later. After getting the visa, I don't want to stay for a single second. I just want to stay away from her. Back home, I put my medical report and ring in a safe. The wedding ring is valuable. I wanted to sell it, but seeing the eternal love vow engraved on it, I decided to leave it for her. It's better to leave the past vows for her to reminisce. I went to the living room and saw her message. Hubby, something in the Jiangcheng ranch happened. I need to go, but don't worry, I'll be back for our anniversary. I didn't want to reply, but fearing unnecessary complications, I replied, okay, I've prepared a gift for you that day. I'm sure you'll like it. I waited, but she didn't reply immediately as usual. I think she's busy working overtime with Li Zefeng, but that's fine. I can invite my classmates in Kyoto for a gathering. It will be hard to meet again after I leave. I invited all my university classmates in Kyoto and luckily, they all came. In the luxury private room, glasses clinked. Yi Tian, why the sudden treat? Yeah, Yi Tian, your famous henpecked husband. Usually we can't even get you to come out. Is the sun rising from the west today? Right, Yi Tian, you couldn't. I've had a fight with your wife, right? Otherwise, why spend so much here? The minimum charge is 100,000. Ha ha ha, facing their teasing. I smiled without answering. Indeed, I used to refuse them because Liu Ruyan said she hated the smell of alcohol on me, so I would decline any gathering involving alcohol. Gradually, I was gone from their circles. Now that I'm leaving, I'll drink my fill with them for a farewell banquet. I drank glass after glass with them. At that moment, my repressed heart felt incredibly relaxed. Not until I felt dizzy did I realize I should stop. Not for fear of being drunk, but because the high bill would crush these office worker classmates. But as I stood up, my limbs felt as heavy as lead and I fell back into my seat. In my days, their laughter overlapped with my memories of college days. Sadly, I can't go back. Waking up the next day, I saw unread messages from Liu Ruyan and Li Zefeng. Liu Ruyan, hubby, I'll give you a huge surprise on our anniversary. I'm sure you'll love it. A surprise, the surprise you give I can't afford. I opened Li Zefeng's message and my face froze. Yi Tian, Ruyan said you're physically incapable and can't be a father. She asked me to be kind and let you experience being a father. I'm kind-hearted, and since you technically sponsored me, I'll let my son to borrow so you can enjoy the feeling of being a father. I thought I could handle his provocation, but I still overestimated myself. Deep down, pain like being cut by glass came. I knew that when Liu Ruyan returned home again, she would be holding her illegitimate child with Li Zefeng, and it was time for me to leave. Unless I could tolerate her betrayal, I got up, unplugged all the cameras in the house, and sent Liu Ruyan one last message. The surprise I have for you is in the safe. The password is your birthday. Remember to check it as soon as you get home. Then I put my phone in the safe. I dragged my suitcase to the door and looked back at my former home with bitterness. To say I wasn't sad or hurting would definitely be a lie. Humans aren't plants or stones. How could they be heartless? Even if you live with a dog for many years, there are feelings, let alone with a person. My gaze finally rested on the wall clock and I muttered to myself, Liu Ruyan, goodbye, no, let's never meet again. After saying that, I didn't look back, dragged my suitcase, hailed a taxi by the road and went to the suburbs of Kyoto, staying in a simple guest house that didn't require registration. I just needed to get my visa from the visa office early the next morning and head straight to to the airport. The wait was long. I tossed and turned all night, and those dozen or so hours felt like years. As soon as it started getting light, I got up and packed quickly. I went to wait at the visa office. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. After the staff started work, I received my visa as expected and didn't linger for a moment. I headed straight to the airport. 2 hours before boarding, I called the agency owner. "You can implement the plan now." "Okay, Mr. Yi, we'll start arranging it immediately." After hanging up, my hands trembled involuntarily. I didn't know if it was hesitation or the excitement of escaping a cage. With 20 minutes left before boarding, the agency owner finally sent the photos of the accident scene. I looked at them carefully and was satisfied, at least from the accident scene. Photos, there were no flaws. I finally felt relieved and sent the final payment as agreed. 10 minutes later, the plane to the United States finally took off. I thought that from this moment on, there would be no possibility of Song Ruyan and me meeting again. In the Zhangjiang villa, after a bout of passion, Liu Ruyan habitually opened her phone to check my location. The location showed, but for some reason her heart felt heavy as if something was about to happen. Li Zefeng reached out to hold her. "Sister Ruyan, what's wrong?" Liu Ru Yan's forehead creased. "I feel uneasy, but I can't say why." Li Zefeng smiled and his hands began to wander. "It seems I haven't taken care of you properly yet. Let's go again." Liu Ruyan pushed him away, got up, put on her pajamas and picked up her phone. Li Zefeng also got up, got out of bed and stepped forward to hug her waist. "Sister Ruyan," Liu Ruyan's face turned cold. "Didn't I tell you not to touch me when I'm making a call?" Li Zefeng's eyes flashed with a hint of resentment, and he said softly and pitifully, "Sister Ruyan, I can't bear to leave you in Tong Xiaobo. Tomer. Ro, you both will leave me and you won't belong to me anymore." At this point he began to sob silently. Liu Ruyan's cold expression softened. She turned and gently stroked his face. "As long as you are obedient, I'll allow you to see Xiaobo. Except for the position of husband, I can give you everything you want." But Liu Ruyan's face turned cold again. "If you harbor any improper thoughts and hurt Yi Tian, you should know the consequences." "I know." A flash of resentment passed through Li Zefeng's eyes and his hands became restless again. "I only want you right now. Don't reject me, okay?" "No." Liu Ruyan tried to struggle, but with Li Zefeng's hands all over her, she soon couldn't resist. Her body weakened uncontrollably and she let out a soul-stirring sound. Li Zefeng secretly wore a triumphant smile as he carried Liu Ruyan in his arms and threw her onto the bed. Before long, Liu Ruyan reached a state of losing control. Meanwhile, Li Zefeng secretly pressed the record button. After a night of passion, Liu Ruyan was awakened from her sleep by a phone call, and when she looked at her phone, her brow furrowed as the caller ID was actually from the Public Security Bureau. She glanced at the soundly sleeping Li Zefeng, hurriedly left the bedroom and answered the call. "Hello. Is this Liu Ruyan?" "Yes, what is it?" "It's like this. We discovered a traffic accident on the winding mountain road. The deceased's identity has been tentatively identified as your husband, Yi Tian. Please come to the station as soon as possible." "What did you say?" Liu Ruyan screamed, her face instantly turning pale as she held the phone. Her hand began to tremble. "I'm sorry, please accept our condolences." Hearing this, Liu Ruyan almost couldn't stand steadily. She leaned against the wall and asked, "How can you be sure?" "The deceased had an ID card on him and also—" "Impossible." Liu Ruyan hung up with a pale face and hurriedly prepared to go downstairs, looking lost and soul-stricken. At that moment, Li Zefeng came out of the bedroom and hugged her from behind. "Sister Ruyan," her face instantly turned cold as she interrupted him. "Let go." "I won't." His hands started to misbehave again. Liu Ruyan's face was covered in frost as she repeated each word slowly. "I told you to let go." An invisible chill made Li Zefeng shudder. He had never felt such a cold tone from Liu Ruyan before. He released his grip with a very ugly expression. "What's wrong? Are you in a bad mood?" But Liu Ruyan didn't even glance at him as she hurried downstairs. He had no choice but to follow her shamelessly. She rushed into the children's room and snatched the sleeping Xiaobo from the nanny's arms. The warm little body made her eyes sting and a bitterness rose in her throat. "Xiaobo, let's go home. Daddy is waiting for us." The nanny looked confusedly at Li Zefeng standing behind her and said cautiously, "Madam, the master is right behind you." Liu Ruyan didn't look up but glared coldly at the nanny. "Who told you that?" "He is my husband." Liu Ruyan's icy gaze terrified her into lowering her head immediately. She wanted to say it was Li Zefeng, but she didn't dare. Liu Ruyan gave a cold snort, and holding Xiaobo, she shouldered past the smiling Li Zefeng and hurried outside. Li Zefeng hesitated for a moment and didn't follow, but his fists were already tightly clenched, nails digging into his palms. His face turned hideous. "Yi Tian." With a gloomy face, she told the driver to speed up. Then she started dialing my number. After failing to get through countless times, she started calling her best friend's son. "Xiang." The driver glanced at the cold-faced Liu Ruyan through the rearview mirror and groaned inwardly. His boss, who usually prioritized safety, seemed like a changed person today. He had already pushed the speed to 100 kilometers per hour, but the boss still thought he was driving too slowly. This was a national road, not a highway. "You don't care about your life, but I care about mine." Unfortunately, Liu Ruyan's mind wasn't on safety. As soon as Sun Xiang picked up, she urgently ordered, "You immediately go to my house and see if my husband is home." Sun Xiang asked, "What's wrong? Did you have another fight with Yi Tian?" Liu Ruyan interrupted her coldly, "Cut the nonsense, go now, or else you know the consequences." On the other end, Sun Xiang was startled. "All right, I'll go right away." Liu Ruyan hung up and stared coldly at the driver. "To the airport, you drive too slowly." slowly, 1 month's salary is deducted. Hearing this, the driver wanted to cry but had to maintain a smile. Half an hour later, Liu Ruyan arrived at the airport and Sun Xiang's call came through. Go buy a high-price ticket to Kyoto for a flight within half an hour immediately, after instructing the driver. She answered Sun Xiang's call. Her heart raced as she opened her mouth, but she didn't ask immediately. She was afraid of Sun Xiang's answer. I'm at your place, Ruyan. There's nobody at home. Maybe Yi-Tian went out. Hearing this, Liu Ruyan felt as if struck by lightning and her phone instantly fell. On the ground, she held Xiaobo and staggered back a few steps. It won't be. He promised me he would never leave me. On the ground. Sun Xiang's voice came from the phone. Hello, Ruyan, are you listening? Liu Ruyan seemed like a body that had lost its soul, her eyes dull as she talked to herself in comfort. No, this is impossible. Yi-Tian must have just gone out for something. But her tears could no longer be controlled, gushing out desperately, sliding down her pale cheeks and dripping onto Xiaobo's innocent face. She knew very well that this possibility was slim, because on the way she remembered my abnormalities over the past few days after her return, which kept repeating in her mind. Besides, on past wedding anniversaries, I never went out and would personally cook her favorite meals at home. All signs pointed to one possibility: I had really left her. Deep down, she just didn't want to admit it. She simply didn't understand why I would go to the winding mountain road in the suburbs. It was over 30 kilometers from home, and there were no relatives or friends there. Sitting there, Xiaobo seemed to feel her sadness and burst into tears. She hurriedly comforted Xiaobo in her arms with a sob. Xiaobo, be good, don't cry. Daddy will definitely be fine. At this time, the driver, with a face full of sweat, came over to pick up the phone from the ground and handed it over with a smile along with the ticket. President Liu, the flight departs in 10 minutes. Liu Ruyan took the phone and the ticket and rushed to the boarding area. At Kyoto Airport, a haggard Liu Ruyan walked out of the exit holding Xiaobo. Sun Xiang, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately got out of the car to meet her. Seeing Liu Ruyan with red eyes and a haggard face, he was shocked. In his memory, he had never seen this strong businesswoman so distraught. Ruyan, has something happened? Why are you in such a hurry? Liu Ruyan nodded while choking with sobs. Go to the Panchen Public Security Bureau in the suburbs, hurry. Sun Xiang was very tactful and hurriedly opened the passenger door without asking another question, but he had a premonition that for Liu Ruyan to be so distraught, the world was probably ending. The two entered the suburban Panchen Public Security Bureau and explained their purpose. The staff member shook their head slightly. Follow me. Liu Ruyan handed Xiaobo to Sun Xiang and with a pale face followed the staff member to the morgue. The staff member pointed to the freezer. President Liu, please confirm if the person inside is your husband. Liu Ruyan's whole body tensed up, her nails digging deep into her palms as she walked expressionlessly toward the freezer. When she clearly saw the unrecognizable corpse inside, her vision went black and she collapsed toward the ground. Although the person was unrecognizable, she recognized the deceased's figure as mine at a glance, because the cigarette stain on the chest of the clothes was something she had specially commissioned someone to embroider with gold thread. The staff member was quick and caught her. President Liu, are you okay? Liu Ruyan steadied herself, her lips trembling as tears streamed down her cheeks, and then along her hair soaking her chest. How could this happen? How could this happen? You were clearly fine when I left. How did we become separated by life and death in the blink of an eye? She could no longer control the pain in her heart. She reached out her trembling hand, gently wiping the blood from the corpse's face while crying out in heart-wrenching pain, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. If I had been home, if I had stayed with you, you wouldn't have had this accident. Sob, that crying sound, so sorrowful that it broke the hearts of all who heard it. Even the staff member's eyes turned red from her crying. If you had known this today, why did you act that way before? The staff member sighed and handed over a file bag. This is the suicide note your husband left for you. Suicide note? Liu Ruyan's heart jolted violently. With tears on her face, she turned to look at staff member. What do you mean? The staff member said solemnly, I found a suicide note at the scene of the accident. It was written by Mr. Yi to you. Liu Ruyan snatched it away and tremblingly took out the suicide note from the file bag. Ruyan, my wife, please forgive me for leaving you by way of death. I wanted. What I want to tell you is that I love you deeply, but you cheated. You betrayed our marriage, you betrayed our love, you betrayed the vows you made to me. Do you know, the day I found out you cheated, my heart felt like it was being cut by knives and I felt like I was better off dead. I don't know what I did wrong for you to treat me in such a cruel way, but I know it's time for me to leave you. I know that no matter if I flee to the ends of the earth, as long as you want, I will have nowhere to hide. So I could only choose this way to leave because I once told you that if you cheated, I would leave you forever and it would be to a place where you could never find me. Don't be sad, just act as if I never existed. The letter paper trembled rapidly in Liu Ruyan's fingertips. The last line of handwriting was blurred into a smudge by tears. No, impossible. Yi-Tian knew I cheated. How did he know? I hid it so well. Who told him? Could it be Sun Xiang? The staff member shook his head and turned to leave. Liu Ruyan's face began to turn fierce and hideous. No matter who it is, I want them to be buried with mine. Yi-Tian, she wiped the tears from her face, put away the suicide note and dialed the Liu Group's security captain. All members move out to the Panchen Public Security Bureau to bring my husband home. Hanging up the phone, she desolately touched the face of my body double. Your father is dreaming, do you know? Every time I saw the look in your eyes when you looked at other children, it deeply stung my heart. I only did this because I love you, sob asterisk. She tidied her hair with her blood-stained hands and said hoarsely, "Husband, I'll bring Xiao Bao to see you, okay? You don't know how much he looks like you." After saying that, she turned and walked out of the morgue. "Ruyan, are you okay?" Sun Xiang, holding the sleeping Xiao Bao, asked cautiously. She had already heard from the staff outside that I had committed suicide because of Liu Ruyan's affair. Her heart was racing wildly. As Liu Ruyan's best friend for years, she knew her character well. If she found out who had exposed her and Li Zefeng's affair to me, then that person would surely suffer a miserable fate. Ruyan did not reply. Her face was cold as she took Xiao Bao from her arms and said softly, "Xiao Bao, mommy is taking you to see daddy." "Okay," Xiao Bao seemed to understand, opening his eyes and babbling while his small hands grabbed the messy hair on her chest. Looking at the small face that somewhat resembled mine, a wave of sadness hit her. She quickly freed a hand to tightly cover her mouth, sobbing silently. Sun Xiang once again cautiously spoke up, "Ruyan." Liu Ruyan suddenly looked up, her face cold. "Get out!" Sun Xiang was shocked, and Xiao Bao in her arms was also scared into crying out loud. Liu Ruyan quickly rocked him and comforted him hoarsely. "Xiao Bao, be good, don't cry. Mommy is taking you to see daddy now." Sun Xiang watched Liu Ruyan's retreating back and opened her mouth to explain. She wanted to leave but didn't dare. She seemed to remember something. With a panicked face, she hurriedly made a call. Liu Ruyan's affair with Li Zefeng was something she had only told one person, her mother. Although she had repeatedly told her mother not to spread this, she feared her mother's big mouth might have let it slip. On the phone, Sun Xiang got her mother's reassurance and her heart finally settled. On the other side, Liu Ruyan carried Xiao Bao back to the morgue, her eyes red, staring blankly at the freezer. Before long, the Liu Group's security forces all arrived. At her order, they carefully lifted the freezer and walked out. Passing by Sun Xiang, Liu Ruyan's red-rimmed eyes flashed with a hint of murderous intent. She was certain the one who killed me was Sun Xiang, the mastermind. Before the body double's funeral, Liu Ruyan put on white clothes and stared coldly at the kneeling Sun Xiang. Meeting her cold eyes, Sun Xiang hurriedly explained in a panic, "Ruyan, believe me. I really never mentioned the matter between you and Li Zefeng to outsiders." Liu Ruyan looked painfully at the body double in the freezer, her voice low. "Only you know about me and Li Zefeng. Who else could it be?" Seeing Liu Ruyan was certain it was him, fear instantly spread through his whole body. Speaking of which, the idea for Liu Ruyan and Li Zefeng to have a child was his. Now this idea had become a fatal fuse. He knew that if he couldn't clear his suspicion, his end would be miserable. His eyes rolled quickly as he thought of a strategy. Suddenly he thought of something and looked up. "I know, it's Li Zefeng. Yes, it must be Li Zefeng." "Impossible unless he wants to die," Sun Xiang argued. "If he wants to climb up and replace Yi Tian's position." Liu Ruyan was stunned. She had suspected Li Zefeng but thought he was usually obedient. Besides, she had warned him more than once. So she felt that unless Li Zefeng was looking for death, he wouldn't dare bring their affairs to me. But she underestimated the greed of the human heart. Now, as Sun Xiang reminded her, she remembered that since they had Xiao Bao, Li Zefeng dared to touch her in public. The more she thought about it, the paler her face became. Is it really like this? Did Li Zefeng kill Yi Tian? Thinking of this, she gnashed her teeth, took out her phone, and prepared to call Li Zefeng. "Wait!" Sun Xiang hurriedly spoke to stop her. Seeing Liu Ruyan looking at him unkindly, he quickly explained, "Find Yi Tian's phone and use Yi Tian's phone to send a message to test Li Zefeng, then we'll know." Liu Ruyan hesitated for a moment, then got up, turned on her phone, and followed the GPS guidance upstairs, finally stopping in front of the safe. Looking at the cold safe, she remembered the gift I had prepared for her was also inside. Her trembling fingers entered the password to open the safe. Inside were the divorce agreement, the wedding rings engraved with "never changing," a medical report, and the phone she had customized for me, all placed neatly there. Her eyes fixed on the divorce agreement, tears burst out and she sorrowfully picked it up. Opening the divorce agreement, my signature appeared before her. Her eyes shrank suddenly. "How is this possible? When did I sign this?" She recalled carefully and finally remembered. She slumped to the ground crying, "No, this doesn't count. You tricked me into signing this. It doesn't count." While speaking, she tore the divorce agreement to pieces. Sobbing, she took my phone out of the safe. She was now desperate to learn the truth from my phone. How I found out. Finding the phone was out of power, she hurriedly found a charger. After charging for less than a minute, she urgently turned it on. Missed calls and WeChat messages kept ringing incessantly, making her a bit irritable. She opened WeChat and clicked on Li Zefeng's chat. By chance, Li Zefeng had just sent a provocative message in. Added an audio recording. "Yi Tian, today should be your wedding anniversary with Sister Ruyan, right? I'll be kind and send you a recording of Ruyan's ecstatic voice. I bet you've never made her this happy before." Seeing such a provocative message, Liu Ruyan almost dropped the phone, and then she let out a roar. "Li Zefeng, it really is you. You are looking for death." Her trembling fingers clicked on the recording. In an instant, her joyful cries from the bed sounded like a clap of thunder. Her face turned pale as she trembled all over, her nails digging deep into her palms. She couldn't imagine how desperate I was when I heard this recording. Her face bloodless, she scrolled up line by line. As she did, a sharp pain hit her chest, and with a wah sound, she spat out a mouthful of blood. The chat logs contained not only provocative messages, but also pictures and videos of her and Li Zefeng in bed. In her mind, she suddenly imagined the way Yi Tian looked when he saw these pictures. Videos, painful, desperate desperate and finally losing all will to live, choosing suicide in utter despair. She slowly stood up, the tears in her eyes no longer flowing, turning instead into cold, killing intent filled the morning hall as Liu Ruyan waved her hand under Sun Xiang's terrified gaze, and a muscular man in black quickly approached Liu Ruyan's side where she whispered a few instructions into his ear. The man in black nodded, his brow furrowing slightly as he turned to depart. Then she looked coldly at the trembling Sun Xiang and said, "From today, the Liu group will fully blacklist the Sun family, including you personally." Sun Xiang was scared out of her wits. Though the Sun family owned $100 million company, it was nothing compared to the $100 billion Liu group. "Please no." Sun Xiang scrambled and grabbed Liu Ruyan's pant leg. "Ruyan, I really didn't tell anyone." Liu Ruyan's face was cold. "I know you know." Sun Xiang couldn't quite react. If it wasn't her fault, why would Liu Ruyan still blacklist the Sun family? But Liu Ruyan's next words made her face turn pale. "If you hadn't manipulated me back then, I wouldn't have slept with Li Zefeng and my Yi Tian wouldn't have died, right?" Sun Xiang opened her mouth to explain again, but Liu Ruyan spat out a single word filled with killing intent. Her face pale as paper, Sun Xiang got up and walked out. She deeply regretted giving in to Li Zefeng's temptation in Kyoto and agreeing to manipulate Liu Ruyan. Unfortunately, there is no medicine for regret. After Sun Xiang left, she sent a message to Li Zefeng, "Return to Kyoto, I am waiting for you." Li Zefeng's reply was almost instantaneous. "Okay, wife, I will definitely arrive. Tonight, you must compensate me well then." She sneered and muttered to herself, "Compensate? Yes, I should, but the one I will compensate isn't you." She came to the freezer where her husband lay and said affectionately, "Husband, wait for me there. Once I have avenged you and settled things for Xiaobo, I will come to be with you. You can hit or scold me then, however you like, as long as you can forgive me." Li Zefeng in Jiangcheng was ecstatic because when he replied, he deliberately changed his usual address of Sister Ruyan to wife. Although she didn't reply, she didn't refuse either, making him feel this was a great step forward. He could almost see the position of the master of the Liu group beckoning him. He quickly packed his luggage and excitedly rushed to the airport to buy a ticket to Kyoto. Late at night at the Kyoto International Airport, the rain was pouring down. Li Zefeng felt no sleepiness as he excitedly walked out of the exit toward the parking lot. Before going to Jiangcheng, he had parked the Rolls-Royce Liu Ruyan gave him here. Getting in, he excitedly kissed the steering wheel. He knew very well that if it weren't for Liu Ruyan, he would never be able to afford a Rolls-Royce in his life. Besides the car, she had also given him more money than an ordinary person could earn in a lifetime. However, he wasn't satisfied with just this. He wanted to go further and replace me to become a man above others, so he had been waiting for an opportunity. Even after he got together with Liu Ruyan, he didn't dare take action. He feared she only saw him as a plaything, and how could a plaything compare to the real husband? He was well aware of this, so he kept enduring until Liu Ruyan gave birth to Xiaobo. He felt his chance had finally come and began a simple test. Seeing that I remained indifferent, he assumed I was just a loser. Feeling emboldened, he began to provoke me directly. Although the final result wasn't out yet, he felt the way things were going was very satisfying. After all, hadn't Liu Ruyan taken the initiative to call him back? One must know that in the past he had to act pitiful, just to keep Liu Ruyan by his side. "Yi Tian, you lost, haha." Li Zefeng laughed out loud, started the engine and drove out of the parking lot. 20 minutes later, Li Zefeng was driving onto National Highway 210 when a heavy truck suddenly surged out from the shadows without warning, like an out-of-control beast heading straight towards him for a head-on collision. Li Zefeng's face turned pale instantly. Instinctively, he jerked the steering wheel, but the truck didn't slow down at all, still approaching like an arrow from a string. A thunderous boom deafened the ears. The Rolls-Royce was severely deformed under the truck's violent impact, and Li Zefeng was pinned tightly within the twisted car body, blood gushing from his forehead. Terrified, he tried to take out his phone to call Liu Ruyan for help, but found his hands were also firmly stuck and unable to move. Just then, the truck door slowly opened, and a burly man with a face full of rough features stepped down. "Save me," Li Zefeng thought, though filled with resentment. His life was on the line at this moment, so he could only suppress his anger and weakly open his mouth to ask for help. As the burly man approached, he cried out again as if struggling between life and death, "Big brother, quick, help me, call 120, I'm injured." The burly man nodded expressionlessly, took out his phone and dialed a number. "Is this 110? My vehicle had a traffic accident on National Highway 210. Incident." Li Zefeng was furious, a raging fire burning in his chest. He clearly asked him to call 120, so why did he call the police first? This was clearly a delay to kill him. Just as he was about to lash out, he caught a glimpse of a sarcastic smile on the burly man's face. At this moment, he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He finally understood that this was no accident but a deliberate murder, but he couldn't figure out why, as he didn't know the man. Why he would attract such a fatal disaster. In a daze, he thought of me because he felt only I had a grudge against him, the grudge of stealing his wife. However, he never thought that the one who wanted his life wasn't me, but that Liu Ruyan, whom he thought loved him deeply. The burly man hung up and sneered mockingly. "I've already made the call for you. You can go on your way peacefully." Go on his way? What did that mean? He wants to kill me? Why? He pleaded in terror. "No, please, I beg you. I can give you." But the burly man turned a deaf ear and got back into the truck. To his despair, the truck slowly reversed forward 4 or 5 meters and then accelerated again, crashing into him violently. No, no, the loud sound of impact echoed again and his world began to turn black. He was very unwilling that his upcoming immense wealth was gone just like that. Receiving news of Li Zefeng's death, Liu Ruyan's face showed no expression. She stood up tiredly and went to the freezer, her reddened eyes staring at the body double. While gently stroking the freezer, she talked to herself, "Husband, wait for me there. When Xiaobao is a bit older, I'll come find you." Next day, the body double's corpse was sent to the crematorium in a massive motorcade. The moment the body was pushed into the furnace, she again cried heart-wrenchingly. The people accompanying them all had red eyes. What a loving couple. It's a pity that Mr. Yu is still so young, probably not even 30 yet. The crowd discussed in low voices. Suddenly, the secretary's phone rang. The secretary went outside to answer the call, not knowing what the other person said. But she was startled for a moment, then quickly came to Liu Ruyan's side and whispered in her ear, "President Liu, Mr. Yi might not be dead." Liu Ruyan, with tears on her face, stared at the secretary in disbelief. "What? How is that possible?" the secretary said. "Auntie Xiang just called me and said Mr. Yi might have faked his death." Faked his death? The secretary nodded and carefully said, "That's what Auntie Xiang said." Liu Ruyan tidied her hair, trying to calm down. "How does she know?" the secretary said. "She said the way Mr. Yi's car accident happened is too similar to how your father faked his death to leave your mother." After the secretary finished speaking, she lowered her head. She knew father was a taboo word. Fake death. Liu Ruyan seemed to think of something. He turned around and quickly walked out, got into the car and rushed home. Back home, she found the blood test report issued by the forensic doctor. She was in grief and hadn't looked closely. Now that she finished reading the blood test report, she was stunned. The deceased had type O blood, not panda blood, which meant that the deceased wasn't me. She wept with joy while holding the report. "Hubby, you're not dead, that's great. Why didn't I think of that? But do you really hate me that much? That you chose such a cruel way to punish me? I admit you succeeded. You've made me taste the feeling of losing you, which is worse than death," she thought. Of her father, who also faked his death to leave her mother back then. After her father left by faking his death, her mother took her through untold hardships to finally find her father, but just as she reunited with him, she witnessed her mother's death. She was only 5 then, her father had returned, but she had lost her mother. Having lost her mother, she hated her father and everyone around him. She felt that if her father hadn't left her, mother wouldn't have died and she wouldn't have lost her mother so young. Now with my fake death departure, she seemed to see the truth of those years. She wasn't her father's biological daughter, but was born from her mother's affair with another man, just like the current relationship between Xiaobao and me. Her eyes were full of bitterness. Is this the karma for me pulling the plug on my father's oxygen tube? Tears streaming down her face, she quickly denied it. No, I don't accept this fate. I'm not like my mother. I am different. My heart has always loved Yi Tian and has never changed. I did this to make this family more complete." Liu Ruyan wiped her tears and picked up her phone to call her secretary, offer a 10 million reward to find the Mr.'s whereabouts. "Yes, President Liu." Hanging up, she dragged her exhausted body upstairs and pushed open the bedroom door. She stared at the empty photo frame on the wall, her throat feeling bitter. "I should have noticed earlier. How could I be so stupid to believe hiding the wedding photos was a surprise? In this world, only you can make me feel so fortunate." She shook her head with a bitter smile and went to the wardrobe. "I need to wash myself completely clean so when Yi Tian returns, he won't think I'm dirty and then he will accept me again." But the moment she opened the wardrobe, her expression changed drastically. Except for hers, not a single piece of mine was there. A sudden sharp pain hit her chest. She clutched her chest tightly and said desolately, "Hubby, you're so cruel. How could you have the heart to treat me like this?" Her pained and flickering gaze saw the open safe. The wedding ring and the medical report were still there. She hurried over in a few steps and slowly picked up the medical report. In fact, she had seen it that day too, but didn't pay attention, thinking it was just a normal medical record. Thinking about it now, the fact that I put it in the safe made her feel it must be significant. She flipped open the medical report and its contents were like a sharp knife stabbing her heart. Her face turned pale as she slumped to the ground. "How is this possible? Yi Tian's illness is cured. When did he get better?" She quickly took out her phone and called the diagnosing doctor at the hospital. The doctor soon gave her an answer. "Your husband's body has no problems. He's just like a normal person." She stood frozen on the spot and her phone dropped to the floor. How can this be? How can this be? Why didn't you tell me sooner? If you had told me earlier, how could I have done things to hurt you? But the only response was the sound of Xiaobao crying downstairs. She picked up her phone, went downstairs, and took Xiaobao from the nanny's arms. "Xiaobao, be good, don't cry or daddy will be angry." Saying so, she found my photo on her phone and showed it to Xiaobao. Strangely, Xiaobao actually stopped crying. After Xiaobao fell asleep, she gently handed him to the nanny. She went outside and called her secretary. "Increase the reward by 50 million. I want to see Yi Tian within a month." "Okay, President Liu, I'll implement it immediately." But a month passed and she still hadn't received any news about me. As if save me, I am the body double. I had already disappeared from her world while my bounty was raised from the original 50 million to 1 billion. 1 billion. A typical small listed company isn't even worth that much. With this amount of money, it's tempting, but I'm not in the country and my old identity was long cancelled. How could people find me? 5 years later, I was across the ocean and I finally moved past the hurt caused by Liu Ruyan. Today, as usual, I just returned to my rental after work when my phone suddenly rang. Looking at the caller ID, I frowned. The number was from home. When I answered, a child's voice came through. Daddy, I really miss you. I frowned. When did I have a son? Thinking it was the wrong number, I smiled and said, little one, you have the wrong number. I'm not your daddy. No, you are. Daddy, mommy has your photo on her phone and she shows it to me whenever I miss you. I smiled and asked, then let me ask you, what is your father's name? Yi Tian. I froze on the spot. If I wasn't mistaken, the child calling me should be the son born to Liu Ruyan and Li Zefeng. I asked, your name is Xiao Bao, right? Yes, I'm Xiao Bao. My formal name is Yi Tianbo. I smiled calmly and said, Xiao Bao, you're mistaken. I am not just. Then a sobbing voice suddenly came from the other end, interrupting me. Hubby, I know you hate me, but after all these years, do you still refuse to forgive me? I said calmly, I don't hate you anymore. It's all in the past. That's great. I'll immediately. Before she could finish, I hung up and blocked her. Unaffected, I lay on the bed and fell asleep shortly after. The next day, I went to the company to resign because I knew that if I didn't leave, Liu Ruyan would soon find me. I planned to leave America and immigrate to Singapore. After finishing my resignation, as I walked to the roadside by the company entrance, the sound of screeching brakes rang out. Suddenly, I was shoved hard. I fell to the ground, and before I could react, someone was hit by a car and sent flying in front of me. When I saw who it was, my face turned pale. It was Liu Ruyan. Mommy, then a child's heart-wrenching cry rang out from across the road. My heart was in chaos as I picked up Liu Ruyan. I lost control and roared at the driver. What are you standing there for? Quickly open the door and take her to the hospital. The driver snapped out of it and opened the back door. I rushed into the car holding her, my voice trembling as I comforted her. Hang in there, you'll be fine once we reach the hospital. She opened her mouth to say something, but a lot of blood gushed out, making it impossible for her to make a sound. I knew what she wanted to say, but seeing her like this, waves of heartache washed over me. With tears streaming down, I couldn't bear it and consoled her. Don't talk. As long as you're okay, I'll agree to anything. Tears slid down her cheeks, yet she showed a smile. Something lost and found again. Using her blood-stained fingers, she painstakingly wrote on my chest, take care of Xiao Bao, he is your biological. She used all her strength but still couldn't finish the words. She closed her eyes, her face covered in blood and tears. At the hospital, the doctor took a quick look and shook his head. I'm sorry, sir. Please accept my condolences. Distraught, I held her cold body in silent agony. I originally thought I would no longer feel anything for her, but seeing her die in my arms, an unspeakable pain surged in my heart. I didn't understand why she would sacrifice her life to save me. Yet had also done something that nearly killed me in the past. Perhaps our meeting was a mistake from the very beginning.